Men, what do you think will happen when you stay for long without having any sexual activity? And better yet, how long have you ever stayed without sex, and what changes did you notice in your body? We might be curious to know what actually you felt in the comment region. What do you think will happen to the sperms? What do you think will happen to the actual size of the penis? And what they say about prostate? Is it true? Like when you don't have sex, when you don't have ejaculation here and there, you increase chances of getting prostate cancer? We are going to cover that in this video. Also, do you know that you marginally increase chances of getting a girl when you stay for long without ejaculation? I know, it's quite interesting, but you're going to see how that can be. And again, dolphins are other animals, mammals, that also enjoy sex. Just they do that for fun. So they can even have sex with other dolphins that are already pregnant, and they know that they're pregnant. It's actually very interesting to know that they also enjoy sex. Anyway, what happened to your sperms? Nothing. Nothing. They stay the same. But something else will happen. You see, sperms, let's go to vasectomy. Vasectomy, you cut the tube leading from the testis going out. Know the difference between semen and sperms. Sperms are the most important things that you're going to find in semen. So you have semen, which is a composition of so many things. We have fluids inside, we have sugars, we have phosphates inside, and then we have the sperms, which are the seeds. So the semen is there to maintain or to keep the sperms alive until fertilization happens. So the sperms are inside the semen. The sperms are usually produced in the testes, and they are stored in what we call epididymis. Very important. And you don't decrease in size when you don't ejaculate for long. So what usually happen, and this is the same thing that usually happen when you get vasectomy, is the sperms, they grow old. They accumulate years, they grow old, they die, they get recycled. What will happen to the semen now minus the sperms? Now that you know that the sperms will just get recycled, the semens will just, nothing will happen. The glands will just stay there waiting for stimulation to produce. One of such is the prostate gland. It's actually important for you to know that men are usually different from women when it comes to reproduction physiology. Now, like for example, men, once they mature, once they get to puberty, production of sperm starts from that point going all the way until they die, so there is no window. Also, they're kind of, let's say, visual perception. You can send them a text and they're going to get an erection. It's that simple. And I think that's one of the reasons why we usually make a lot of mistakes, because, you get attracted to what you're seeing, and then by the time you realize that you got attracted to the wrong thing, it's long gone. Women usually take a little bit longer for them to start desiring for sex compared to men, because men will have frequent reminders. Like you see, we said they're visual. You just see something, and even if it's a curvaceous cow that's just passing, get an erection. Also, every morning, two things might happen. Either an erection will wake you up, or you'll wake up to an erection. That is, you're talking about a normal person. You're supposed to have an erection each and every morning. And the reason for this is quite simple, because in the morning, that's when you have a spike. When it comes to testosterone, it's highest in the morning. That's one of the biggest reasons. Another one, which is quite a little bit far, is you most of the time usually wake up in a full bladder. I'm sure you've noted that when you go to the washroom to empty your bladder, and I'm talking about when you have a full bladder, fully distended, you usually get an erection gradually to a point where when you're halfway, you have a full erection, to a point you'll have to force the urine through. So this might either, you're forcing the urine to pass through, it's necessary, and maybe you might get a spray, you get several, you know what I'm talking about, man. Anyway, there is a nerve that we call sacral nerve. It will be affected during this process, can be triggered during this process, and that's why you get an erection. So that's another reminder. In the morning, you get your erection. That's the morning bell. You also get an erection when you're emptying your bladder. You also, you're a visual person, so every now and then you're seeing good things passing by, and then you get an erection. So you have a lot of reminders. So you take shorter to crave for sex compared to women who are more of touch. Now, going back to the sperms, we said nothing will happen to the sperms. They're going to be recycled. But before you get to a point of recycling them, the body might feel that, hey, you're keeping them in long, and you start getting wet dreams. They can be a little bit more frequent compared to when you're having regular sex. But this is because, and by the way, wet dreams are not limited to when you are a teenager. They go all the way up to the end. But they reduce over time. The same thing happens to women. They also get wet dreams. But that's a conversation for another day. So when you stay for long without having sexual activities, you might notice that you're getting some wet dreams and there, and this is your body trying to offload some of it. So if you don't get those, then you go to the recycling part where every of those sperms will die and then they get recycled to produce new ones. Nothing goes to waste, by the way. What will happen to your size? Most of the time, nothing will happen unless you're staying for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, or you've added a lot of weight. You might find significantly there is a reduction in size and muscle mass down there. I said that, and actually it's actually true, when you tend to not use a certain process in the body has a way of shelving most of it. So there is something called atrophy and something we call hypertrophy. I'll give you an example with muscles. When you go to the gym, you get, you saw muscles. Hypertrophy. But when you don't exercise your muscles, then they shrink. That's what we call atrophy. So the same thing will happen down there. But like I said, this is something that will have to take a long time because you also can be favored by genetics. So you might not even notice something happen. So there's nothing significant that will change when it comes to the size, unless maybe you're going to take like 50 years to not having ever getting some. And to a point where if you're going to go beyond 50 years without having a sexual activity, that means that you don't actually need it anymore. So your body is actually better focusing on other things. Just saying. This one is either going to be clingy or it's going to disappoint you. You stay for long without having sexual activity and then now you want to have sex. You might take 10 seconds of honest work and you just ejaculate and you don't want to go back there. You don't have the mood anymore. Yeah, might sound maybe something that has happened to you. You can see that from your face. But the good thing is it's actually temporary. So it'll just come back. Your line will come back. Just make sure the partner is understanding. Why did I choose this topic? Someone remind me. Well, let's go back to hormones. Let's start with the major one, testosterone. Yeah, we have studies that they are all mixed up, so we don't know what actually is happening over time. We have studies that are suggesting that there's an increase in the amount of testosterone that you have. We have others that are saying that there is a reduction in the amount because of reduced sexual stimulations. But all in all, there is, in my opinion, there is nothing significant about them. But we have several others that are also very important when it comes to sexual activities. We have oxytocin, which is the love hormone. We also have dopamine, which is a reward system hormone. A combination of that will give you sexual pleasure when you meet your partner, and it improves the bonding and so many things around that. So if you miss that, you might start feeling lonely, isolated, sad, lethargy and there. Yep, when you stay for long without having stimulation or that. But then we have masturbation, which is, I said technically and categorically that I don't encourage masturbation because of the fact that it's actually very easily accessible and you're prone to misusing that. It's not bad when it comes to your health, but you might overdo it. It's bad. It's a habit forming thing because of the brains. You have the reward system in the brain. Yep. Now let's go to the claim that I made that you increase chances of getting a girl when you stay for long without having an ejaculation. Now, there was a study which was done on men. They provided their sperms and there was an analysis of the sperms, the X versus the Y chromosomes. And then they abstained for 10 days. And then they provided another specimen, the sperms. And across all those who are participating, there was an increase, a 2% increase in the number of X chromosomes compared to the Y chromosomes. Meaning that, but 2% is not that significant. But scientifically it's actually significant, but health-wise I don't think it's actually something that's worth the hype. I hope you're not going to abstain in an aim of increasing chances of getting a girl, so don't keep your hopes there. 2% is quite not that significant. Diseases. This is actually interesting because now you see in men and women they are slightly different anatomically. When it comes to STIs, cut across. STIs reduce when there is less sexual activities because they are sexually transmitted. But then, when it comes to UTIs, slightly different in ladies, they can end up continue having the same because the nature of their anatomy. They have the anal opening that has Escherichia coli, a leading cause of UTIs, and they have their vagina just next there. Meaning that chances might be that something can happen and yeah, the bacteria move to the other side. But for men, totally different. So they have a reduction in both because most of the time men usually get UTIs through sexual activities. It's quite interesting to learn that UTIs can also be transmitted sexually. Now, sexual libido within 1 year, nothing will happen. There might be an increase because, maybe you are used to it. But then if you are not used to it, there is nothing that will happen. But over time, it's going to reduce and go down all the way based on how many years you're going to stay without any sexual activity. Prostate. Do you have an enlargement or a reduction in size, or do you have risk going up of getting the prostate cancer, or they reduce? There's something called BPH, which is benign prostate hyperplasia. Do they go up or do they go low? Now, there was a study which was done on men. There were 30,000. So we had those who were ejaculating 21 times in a month. Let's say that's almost daily. And then we had those who were at most 7 times in a month. Now the results were those who had more than 21 ejaculations in a month had lower risks of getting BPH, prostate cancers. Those who had less, they had a high chances of getting those. So kind of tells us that you need to ejaculate more, at least daily. We don't have a concrete answer yet supporting this, but there is a relationship between having more ejaculations and having lower risk of getting that. So we take that for now until we get high value study. I'm not sure whether you know what will happen to women when they stay for long without having any sexual activity. If you want to know, there is a video I made about that here. And also I'm going to make a video about what will happen if you do masturbation on a daily basis, what will happen to your body, or if you just ejaculate on a daily basis, both for men and women.